This video has been made possible thanks to Conflict of Nations. In Conflict of Nations, you'll be in control of the armed forces of one of the leading nations of this world, responsible for its military expansion, economic development, technological research, and foreign diplomacy. Once you have an account, you can play the game on PC or mobile. I know, it might seem strange for some people to talk about war video games when we're witnessing a real war every day on our screens. But make no mistake, Conflict of Nations is a video game that, like chess, doesn't actually hurt anyone. And now, best of all, if you click on the link in the description, you can unlock your exclusive gift of 13,000 units of gold and get 1 month of premium subscription for free. This offer is only available for 30 days, so click our link now and start mobilizing your troops and planning your battle. China's political and military leaders want one thing above all: to reconquer Taiwan. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, more and more people are dreaming of achieving full independence. And in the United States, well, let's just say that they are hoping that the odd misstep will prevent China from becoming a real superpower. We are talking about a massive chess game. It's a geopolitical game in which the current storm of fire, destruction, and annihilation that Putin's hordes have launched on Ukraine has set off all the alarms. Suddenly, a lot of countries around the world have realized one thing: that even in the midst of the 21st century, war may be much closer than we could have imagined. Of course, Taiwan takes the lead in all of this. The geopolitical, military, and strategic situation of this island has many similarities with Ukraine. Both Russia and China maintain claims that, in one way or another, go through limiting the sovereignty of these territories. What's more, both Taiwan and Ukraine are countries that have tried, with varying degrees of success, to forge their own institutions, forge relations with the West, and consolidate a democratic system. But let's start at the beginning. The Taiwanese began to see the light when Xi Jinping's regime ended the de facto independence enjoyed by the former free city of Hong Kong with the stroke of a pen. That was Taipei's first warning. Now, the invasion of Ukraine has set off the alarm bells again. It's been the second, and perhaps the final warning. You see, for decades, it has been taken for granted that the Chinese People's Liberation Army was not capable enough to invade Taiwan and take control of the island. However, according to many military experts, all that could change very soon. Given the plans China currently has in place, by the years 2025 to 2027, the Asian giant could be ready to launch its offensive. And that's why in Taiwan, they are paying very, very close attention to what is happening in Ukraine.
The determination and resilience that the Ukrainian people have shown in the wake of Russia's invasion have inspired Taiwan, reinforcing our commitment to defend our freedom. B. Kim Haiso, Taiwan's representative to the US.
And keep in mind that we are not just talking about empty words. The brutal Russian invasion has already prompted the Taiwanese government to take action.
Taiwan looks at extending compulsory military service beyond 4 months. Minister tells Parliament that proposals are under consideration and a plan will be put forward this year. Beijing's pressure on the island and Russia's war in Ukraine have prompted debate on how to boost defense.
But beyond the big headlines, what lessons can Taiwan take from Ukraine? What can and cannot be learned by Tsai Ing-wen's country from Volodymyr Zelensky's country? Well, listen up.
Lessons from Ukraine.
Right now, the war in Ukraine has served to highlight two ideas. Firstly, it has shown that being stronger does not always guarantee a military victory. Secondly, even if the attacking country is a nuclear power and a major supplier of key supplies, Western allies may be willing to provide all the assistance necessary to arm an ally fighting to preserve its territory and independence. And keep in mind that this was something that, until the Russian invasion of Ukraine, generated a lot of doubts. And it goes even further. If Western countries have thrown themselves behind Ukraine, which is basically a grain exporter, imagine what position they might take with the country that produces more than half of all advanced semiconductors used in the world. And it's not just us saying so, it's US President Joe Biden himself.
Biden says US would intervene militarily if China were to invade Taiwan. Comments during Tokyo visit raise uncertainty over whether US is moving away from policy of strategic ambiguity.
But beyond the United States' hypothetical response, here are some of the formulas that Taiwan may already be extracting from the Ukrainian experience. First of all, we have to keep in mind that, being an island, Taiwan is at high risk of being besieged. In fact, before launching the military offensive itself, it's very likely that China would use a combination of siege techniques with hybrid warfare actions, such as cyber attacks or sabotage of all kinds. Well, in order to resist the siege, and based on the experience of cities like Mariupol or Kharkiv, the first thing Taiwan has to do is to double its oil reserves to allow the army to maintain its operations. Taiwan's Petroleum Administration Act currently provides for crude oil reserves amounting to 30 days of the previous year's average consumption, or approximately 1 million barrels per day. Now, following the Ukrainian experience, military experts are advising Taiwan to at least double these stocks to 60 days. What's more, this storage should be located at high elevations and dispersed throughout the country, both for protection against precision attacks and so that the oil can continue to be transported, thanks to gravity, even in the event of power supply disruptions. In addition, to ensure power supply, military experts advise the construction of multiple electric fuel generators alongside the same tanks. Also, considering that ports could become priority targets for the invader, the country must prepare itself to receive over-the-shore deliveries, that is, without having to use port infrastructure. In total, it's estimated that these actions could cost Taiwan more than $4 billion. But keep one thing clear, guaranteeing the supply of oil to the military could determine the entire course of the war. Likewise, experts are also recommending that the country urgently increase its basic food stocks to a minimum of 120 days of consumption, build water wells throughout the island, and implement an effective satellite internet network.
Starlink internet becomes a lifeline for Ukrainians. In Ukraine, Starlink's technology has found a place where it can prove itself, especially being used in ways other than how it was intended. Throughout its invasion, Russia has consistently attacked Ukrainian communications infrastructure with both military weapons and cyber attacks.
The idea behind this first set of measures would be to prepare Taiwan to hold out long enough for international aid to arrive or for China to throw in the towel. But of course, in addition to infrastructure, this goal needs, above all, to ensure effective military defense. And here we come to the second lesson that the Russian invasion is teaching us. It is possible to contain a superior army, and to do so, we must necessarily talk about military equipment, and above all, about three axes: ballistic defense, air defense, and maritime defense. You see, the war in Ukraine is not only serving as a learning experience for Taiwan, but also for China itself. For example, the Asian giant may have realized that to achieve rapid military superiority, it would need to lash out with a brutal amount of fire before carrying out the full-scale invasion. This is something that Russia did not do before invading Ukraine. Well, in order to be able to cope with this more than likely scenario, Taiwan has to multiply its defense against ballistic missiles and precision airstrikes. Currently, the Taiwanese armed forces are already planning to upgrade their 350 Patriot PAC-3 missiles and purchase 300 additional interceptors. After witnessing the Ukrainian experience, the effort will probably be even greater. For example, the purchase of drones and equipping them with electronic warfare equipment may be encouraged, which would reduce the accuracy of Chinese guided missiles. This would call for a much greater military and economic effort for the invader. There are even those on the island who advocate pressuring the United States to deploy its THAAD system in Taiwan. Of course, it seems unlikely that Washington would be willing to do so. When it was deployed in South Korea, there was a huge diplomatic row with China. Furthermore, Ukraine has also shown how preventing the invader from gaining air control is possible, and may also be key to slowing down its operations. In this vein, the Ukrainian defense has been characterized by being organized in layers, making it difficult or impossible for the invading power to achieve air superiority.
Without air control, China would be incapable of executing almost any military plan against Taiwan. Harry Halem and Eric Feynman, geopolitical analysts.
And so, Taiwan can create a first defense layer of greater range and altitude with the Patriots, a middle layer with other anti-aircraft batteries of lower precision, and a final layer with portable anti-aircraft systems, that is, those that can be carried by the soldiers themselves. These are known as manpads. In Ukraine, we have all seen the example of the Stingers donated by NATO and the Strela that they already had, and that have been used to shoot down numerous helicopters, drones, and even the occasional Russian fighter plane. Lastly, we have the case of maritime defense. Of course, since it is an island, this point becomes very important. To prevent the invasion, it is essential that Taiwan manages to avoid landings and to avoid China using the coastline to attack land positions. Although Ukraine lacked a naval force, which Taiwan evidently does have, there is one thing it could copy: the Ukrainian strategy of sea denial. Sea denial is a military term that consists of making it impossible for the enemy to use the sea to carry out an assault, while at the same time not necessarily controlling the waters entirely. Taiwan could look, for example, not only at how Ukraine has deployed numerous sea mines, but especially at how critical it could be to store and deploy anti-ship missiles and precision-guided munitions all along the country's coastline in small depots that are difficult for the invader to detect. Indeed, this is how Ukraine managed to sink the Moskva with its Neptune missiles, by going unnoticed.
Warship Moskva was blind to Ukrainian missile attack, analysts shows. The crew of RTS Moskva 121 was blind to and not ready for the Ukrainian missile attack that sank Russia's Black Sea flagship. Odessa hit by missiles as Ukraine claims it has sunk second Russian ship.
What's more, experience in the Ukrainian war has shown that Taiwan's current inventory could prove to be clearly insufficient, even given news like this.
Taiwan to more than double annual missile production capacity amid China tension. Taiwan plans to more than double its yearly missile production capacity to close to 500 this year.
Taiwan has been upgrading its maritime defense for some time now. For example, with the purchase of 400 Harpoon anti-ship missiles from the United States and 25 radars to operate them. These missiles could be capable of hitting Chinese ships shortly after they leave port. But the numbers seem clearly insufficient. Furthermore, much more is needed to really have an effective deterrent force. Thirdly, we can highlight something in which Ukraine has literally crushed Russia: the warfare narrative and communication. This is something in which Zelensky has proven to be quite talented. If there is one thing Ukraine has done, it has been to win the support of the vast majority of the West. Yes, they are the victims of the invasion, but that does not mean it was a piece of cake. Ukraine has presented itself to the world not only as the victim of an invasion, but also and above all as a country fighting for democracy, openness, and European values. This, VisualPolitik fans, has made not supporting Ukraine so distasteful that even the European Union has taken matters into its own hands. In addition, at all times, Zelensky has argued that victory was possible if he had the support of the West. In other words, he conferred responsibility. Well, Taiwan is the country with the most civil rights in all of Asia, an indispensable technological leader, and an important Western ally. Strengthening the foreign agenda, and above all, becoming something like the Mecca of freedom and civil rights, could be the key to, if necessary, counting on the massive and unanimous support of the West. This is something that we've already covered here on VisualPolitik in a past video on the defense of Taiwan. And finally, the fourth key has to do with general mobilization, especially with the so-called Territorial Defense Forces, which were created from 2015 and are playing a key role in the defense of Ukraine. We are talking about a kind of well-organized support army that even has been established as a branch of the armed forces. It's an army that is composed of reservists and volunteers who receive training and are in charge of tasks such as controlling the security of the territory, providing logistical support to the troops, intelligence, carrying out ambushes and sabotage operations, and even providing agile support to the professional army's own combat actions with troops where necessary. The idea is to make the defense much denser, and therefore to make it much more difficult for the invader to control the territory. This Ukrainian model has begun to be copied by Poland, and now there are those who think that Taiwan could do the same. However, this could become very complicated, because at this point, we may get into what Taiwan may not be able to learn from Ukraine. Well, listen up.
What Taiwan may not be able to learn.
Territorial defense forces have played a key role in Ukraine's resistance, and it makes sense. As we were saying, making defense much denser in a territory can turn an invasion into a huge nightmare. At the same time, the professional army frees up resources to focus on attacking the enemy. Thanks to these forces, Ukrainian cities such as Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, or Mykolaiv were armored to the extent that Russian soldiers could not penetrate them. However, despite its enormous role, this is something that Taiwan may not be able to emulate. You see, in Taiwan, there is a civil defense corps, but the truth is that it is not militarized and depends entirely on the police. We're talking about a corps that is designed primarily to assist in evacuations or natural disasters such as earthquakes, typhoons, and floods. Its members do not receive any weapons training, and they are certainly not likely to know how to use them themselves. In fact, this is one of the countries in the world where the strictest legislations regarding the possession of weapons, to the point that even to buy a spear gun, you need a police permit. And although there is military service, it is very short, only 4 months, and does not currently provide effective training for a war situation. What's more, the simple truth is that trying to turn the civilian force into a kind of army would be illegal. And okay, I know what you're thinking, but Josh, wouldn't it be as easy as saying, we'll change the laws and that's it? Well, no. The truth is that it would not. Right now, it would be illegal, and there doesn't seem to be enough political will to change that situation. At least that's the way things stand today. But having reached this point, it's your turn. Should Taiwan change this and go for armed civilian resistance? Should the Formazan country build an entire insurgency like the Ukrainians did between 2014 and 2022? Do you think Taiwan would manage to resist a Chinese invasion, at least as successfully as Ukraine is doing? And if you liked this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming news. And also remember that if you want to feel like Sun Tzu and speculate on military strategies, the free online PvP strategy game Conflict of Nations is worth checking out. Click on the link in the description to get your unique starter pack, but remember that the offer is only available for 30 days. Once again, thank you for watching, all the best, see you next time.